Welcome to the First Hebrew Primer, Chapter 14. Let's go ahead and take a look at our vocabulary for this week. We start with the word, a number. Echad is the number 1. Echad. Below that, we have an adjective, and you're going to have a number of adjectives in your vocab this week because that's one of the main things we're talking about in the grammar. So this word here is gadol, which is great or big. Below that is zakein, which means old. Chakam is wise. Below that, the word tov means good, tov. Below that, Yosef is the proper name, Joseph. Leah is Leah. That's pretty straightforward, proper name. We have an adverb here, ma'od, and it means very or much, ma'od. Another adverb, saviv, means around. An adjective, rav, means much or many. Ra, below that, means bad or evil. And tachat means under or instead of. So we're going to be talking about adjectives this week. If you need a little bit of a brush up on your English grammar, let's talk for a minute about how adjectives work in English. So what is an adjective? Well, an adjective is this is a definition from Merriam-Webster. An adjective is a word belonging to one of the major form classes in any of numerous languages and typically serving as a modifier of a noun to denote a quality of a thing named, to indicate its quantity or extent, or to specify a thing as distinct from something else. Maybe a simpler way of saying this is adjectives change and describe stuff, where they describe something more specifically. Adjectives at times are thought of as placing restrictions on a noun. So you could say, like in the phrase, the good book, good is an adjective. So you're restricting the category of book. Not all books are good. So we're talking about the good book. This is in a particular category of books that we would analyze as being good books. So adjectives are kind of like that. They place restrictions or they further categorize nouns. Now, there are 3 main ways an adjective is used. They can be used attributively, that is, as an adjective. They can be used in a noun sentence. And then finally, they can be used simply as a noun. Okay, in English, when we use an adjective, when it's an adjectival use of an adjective, which sounds redundant, but it's not, when they're used kind of like in their normal adjectival use, adjectives in English are placed before the noun. So you have like a red car, right? Red is the adjective, and it's placed before car. Or a wise judge. Wise is the adjective before judge. A difficult class, right? Difficult comes before class. Or a false prophet. Adjectives in English can be either definite or indefinite. You only use one article for the whole phrase, including the adjective. So you have a red car or the red car. A wise judge or the wise judge. You don't say the wise, the judge. You don't use 2 articles in English. We just use 1. In English, a predicate adjective, so this is like a predicate use or what the textbook will call a noun sentence use of an adjective, is when the adjective is used with a form of the verb to be. And we're all pretty familiar with this, I would think. So here's an example. Instead of saying false prophet, you can say the prophet was false, right? And here it's a predicate adjective. It's being predicated after a verb. The car was red. The judge is wise. The class is difficult. And then in English, when used as a noun, adjectives don't modify a noun, but they actually function as a noun. And in this case, some English grammarians might actually just classify these as nouns instead of adjectives, but they're the same word. So you have like red is my favorite color. Well, red is normally an adjective, right? Like a red car. Here it's functioning like a noun as the subject of a sentence. Or you could say our budget is in the red. Here red is functioning like a noun as the object of a preposition. Okay, in English, the adjective does not inflect. In English, the adjective has only one form. So if the adjective is modifying a plural noun, it's still singular in form. Those are great cars, right? The word great is an adjective. and we don't change it to plural because it's modifying a plural noun. We don't say, those are great cars, right? That's not good English. In Hebrew, though, the adjective has 4 forms, and it does inflect for both gender, masculine or feminine. Remember, every noun in Hebrew is either masculine or feminine. So if an adjective modifies that noun, it has to agree in gender, and it also has to agree in number. So if it's modifying a plural noun, it has to be plural, or a singular noun, it has to be singular, which is different than in English. So here's the basic paradigm, and I'm using the adjective tov as our paradigm example here. And there's so unlike nouns, nouns are either masculine or feminine, right? And they don't change. They're always that way. Adjectives will change. They can be either masculine or feminine depending on the noun that they modify. So the masculine form of tov of the word is just tov. There's no ending. The masculine plural form of tov is tovim. You put a hirik yod mem at the end. That might ring a bell for you, right? That looks familiar. That's the same masculine plural ending that the noun has. The adjective will use the same one. The feminine singular ending is a kametze, so it's tova. And the feminine plural ending is a holem vav tav, tovot. So the good news here is you do need to memorize the adjective paradigm, but you actually already know it because it's the same as a noun paradigm. The endings are exactly the same. Here's just some examples of that. We have numbers often function as adjectives. Here's the number 1, echad, is a masculine singular, achat, if it's modifying a feminine noun, as a feminine singular. And then you have a number of other nouns here. So here's the word big, gadol, one of our vocab words, as a masculine singular, a feminine singular, gedolah, masculine plural, gedolim, feminine plural, gedolot. Or the word old. These are actually all our vocabulary words. Zakein, feminine singular, zakena, masculine plural, zakenim, feminine plural, zakenot. And you can kind of see how they inflect all the way through here. Okay. Adjectives, as I've mentioned, must agree in gender and number. And when they're being used adjectively, adjectives also have to come after the noun they modify. So instead of like in English, it's before the noun, if it's functioning adjectively, it must come after the noun, and it must agree in gender and number. And definiteness, actually, which we'll talk about later. But here's some examples. We have davar tov. So literally this is word good. We want to translate that in English, a good word, because in English we put the adjective before the noun. So a good word. Or tovim, devarim tovim would be translated good words. Literally this is words, goods, right? You see that plural ending. But in English we translate just good words. Here we have mishpacha tova, a good family, or mishpachot tovot, good families. The masculine noun is always modified by a masculine adjective, even if it has a feminine plural ending. Remember, some of the nouns, like masculine nouns, take an irregular feminine plural ending, or vice versa. You might have a noun that looks masculine but is actually feminine. Whatever the actual gender of the noun is, that's the adjective you use. So in this example here, we have the word city, ear. That looks masculine, but if you remember your vocabulary, it's actually a feminine noun. Ear is feminine, so it's going to be modified with a feminine adjective. Ir gedolah. See that kametze ending is a feminine singular ending, translated a big city. Here's the plural, arim. Again, it looks masculine plural, doesn't it? But we talked about in the vocabulary, this is actually a feminine word, and so you use a feminine adjective with it. Arim gedolot. Here's the word father, av tov. That's pretty straightforward, a good father. But remember, father takes that irregular feminine plural, even though the word is still masculine, so you use a masculine adjective with it, avot tovim. Okay, the adjective. Attributive use, sometimes grammarians call this the attributive use of the adjective or the adjectival use of an adjective, or when an adjective is used as an adjective. It must agree with the noun it modifies in gender, number, and definiteness, and come after the noun it modifies. So if you see an adjective like tov, and it agrees in gender, number, and definiteness with the word it modifies, ish, and it comes after, you translate it like an adjective, a good man. This is man good, a good man. But the adjective must also agree in definiteness. So here you have ha'ish, hatov, you have the definite article on the noun. That means the definite article has to be on the adjective too. So very literally, this is the man, the good one, or the man, the good. We just translate it with one article in English and say the good man. Here's a feminine example, isha tova, a good woman, or ha'isha hatova, the good woman. Here's just some additional examples of that. You have habayit hagadol, the big house, or the family, the good is the good family. The father, the wise is the wise father. And then you can see the plural there as well. So just study those examples. I think the rules hopefully are pretty clear at this point. Now, what if an adjective is used predicate? In English, we would call it a predicate adjective, or in this Hebrew textbook, it calls it a noun sentence. We just covered noun sentences in the last chapter. Well, you can use an adjective in a noun sentence. It can take the place of one of the nouns. And in that case, the adjective can either come before or after the noun it modifies. It has to agree in gender and number, but it cannot have the definite article. So those are the things to recognize in that. So if it's being used predicatively or in a noun sentence, the adjective cannot have the definite article. It has to agree in gender and number, and it can come either before or after the noun it modifies. So here we have the man old, and we translate that the man is old. You know this is not translated the old man, because if it was an adjective use, you'd have to have the definite article on the adjective as well. That would be ha'ish hazakein, not ha'ish zakein. So this is a predicative use or a noun sentence use of the adjective. The man is old. Here we have the mother is good, as opposed to the good mother. This is not translated the good mother because they don't agree in definiteness. Or you have the sons are wise. An adjective used in a noun phrase, again, here they can be either before or after the noun it modifies. So this is just showing you that tov ha'ish and ha'ish tov, they would both be translated the same way. One is literally good is the man, or the other is the man is good. We translate both of those as the man is good. Or we have the woman beneath it. So again, when it's used as a noun phrase, that adjective can come either before or after the noun it modifies. Adjectives can also stand alone as nouns, kind of take the place of a noun in a sentence, and when that's the case, they just stand alone. So here we have it as the object of a preposition, between good and evil. Remember that word between, bein, is often, it's used twice in Hebrew, but you only translate it once. Literally, it's between good and between evil. In English, we just say between good and evil. Or with the upright, or with the one who is upright. So you can translate when it stands on its own. Sometimes you can come up with a phrase like the one who is upright is a way of showing that this really is functioning like a noun. Now, when they function like a noun, adjectives can also, let me back up for a minute. What if you want to modify a word in a word pair with an adjective? So we talked about how word pairs, or the construct chain, it can't be broken, right? The word pair, those two words have to stay together, that of relationship. Well, what if you want to use an adjective to modify one of those words? Well, what you do in that case is you place the adjective after the word pair, regardless of which noun it's modifying. So here we have the word pair, the house of Sarah, and then we put the adjective after it. Now notice the adjective is inflected like a masculine singular adjective, hagadol. That tells you that it's actually modifying house and not Sarah. So this is the big house of Sarah. Now I use the word the with it. Don't they have to agree in definiteness? But house doesn't have a definite article. Well, if you remember word pairs, the definiteness of the word pair form is determined by the final noun of the word pair. If the last noun of a word pair is definite, the whole word pair is definite. So in this case, Sarah is a proper name, which is definite, which means the word house is considered definite. So they actually do agree in definiteness. And again, gadol, you know for sure, modifies house because it's masculine singular, not Sarah, which would be a feminine singular noun. In fact, that's what we have below. Beit Sarah HaGedolah. Here we have the feminine singular ending on the adjective, so we know for sure that modifies Sarah, the house of Big Sarah. Here's another example, the kings of the city. And now we have the adjective evil, the evil. Well, is evil referring to kings or is it referring to city? Well, we see the feminine singular ending on the adjective. That tells us it refers to city, the kings of the evil city. Below is the opposite, Malkei Ha'ir Ha'ra'im. Here's a masculine plural ending on the adjective. That means it refers to the plural kings, the evil kings of the city. All right, let's talk for a moment about the word ma'od. In English, the word very comes before the adjective it describes. So if you wanted to say someone is very old or very wise, you would say the word very before it. In Hebrew, ma'od comes after the adjective. So gadol ma'od is very great. Or it can be used before too, ma'od hakam, very wise. So ma'od also does not have to appear directly after the adjective in Hebrew sentences. So here you have gadol ha'ish ma'od, the man is very great, or ha'ish gadol ma'od, the man is very great. The ma'od, the position can change a bit there. So I would just say in general, it's good to translate ma'od as very and turn that phrase that it's connected to into, very. All right, we have a lot of content in this chapter, so we also want to introduce or talk about the demonstrative pronouns. Now, you've had a number of these in your vocabulary already. These are all the demonstrative pronouns in Hebrew. You have what are called the near demonstrative pronouns. Like I could say, this pencil, the pencil that's right here, that's called a near demonstrative, this, as opposed to that over there, right? That pencil is a remote demonstrative pronoun. So the near demonstrative pronouns for a masculine noun are ze, feminine noun, zot, for the singular, this. The plural, these, have the same form in the masculine or plural, ele. And you've learned these in your vocabulary already. The remote demonstrative pronouns, that or those, actually are the forms of independent personal pronouns that you've already learned. So who, which is translated he, can also be that. Or he, which is translated she, can also be that. Or the plural forms, haim or hain, which is normally they, masculine plural or feminine plural, can also be translated those. So let's talk about these demonstrative pronouns. Demonstrative pronouns can be either used like an adjective, and they function the same way as an adjective in this way, like this man, those women. When it functions in that way, it's all the same rules as an adjective. They have to agree in gender and number and definiteness with the noun they modify and come after the noun they modify. Or they can be used in a noun sentence as pronouns, like this is the man or those are the women. And in that case, it cannot have the definite article with it. It's the same rule as an adjective. And then the masculine and feminine singular forms, who and he, are identical to the third person independent personal pronouns, as we already talked about. So here's just some examples of what this might look like. You have ha'ish hazeh is this man. This is an adjective use. See how it agrees in gender, number, and definiteness with the noun it modifies, and it comes after the noun it modifies. Very literally, this is the man, this one. They both have the definite article on it. In English, we leave the definite article off, and we just say this man. We don't say this man. Here's the feminine, ha'isha, hazot, the woman, this one. Very literally, we'd translate it, this woman. Or ha'ish, hahu, the man, that one, we translate as that man. By the way, this is one way you know the word who is not a pronoun, a personal pronoun. It's not translated he, is because it has the definite article with it. If it has a definite article, it's for sure a demonstrative pronoun. Okay, demonstrative pronouns can also be used with nouns that are already modified by adjectives. So here's where it gets a little complicated, right? Ha'ish, hatov, hazat. Very literally, this is the man, the good, the this. And we translate that in English, it looks exactly backwards, kind of like we're reading backwards. This good man. So we translate the demonstrative pronoun first, then the adjective, and then the noun to follow English word order. Or here we have ha'isha, hatova, hazot. Literally, the woman, the good one, the this one. We translate this good woman. Now, these demonstrative pronouns can also be used in a noun phrase. In that case, they don't have the definite article. They typically come first, but it can be either way. And this would be, we need to include the English verb is or are or were to make it into a phrase in English. So we have like, this is the man, this is the woman, that is the man, that is the woman. Okay, just in case you have thought we don't have enough in this chapter yet, there's another thing we want to talk about, and that is the preposition min, which you already know means from or out of. There's another use of the preposition min, particularly when it's used with adjectives, that's really helpful to know, and that is min can be used to communicate the idea of a comparative adjective. In English, we have comparative adjectives, right? We can say something is big, bigger, or biggest, right? We have that bigger and biggest. Those are comparative adjectives. Hebrew doesn't have comparative adjectives forms. Instead, it uses the preposition min with an adjective. That's how that idea of comparison is communicated. So here's some examples. This is the house is big, right? Very literally, this is the house is big. We know this is not the big house because there's no definite article on big. So the house is big from the tent. So that's a very literal English translation. The house is big from the tent. That doesn't really make sense in English. The idea that's being communicated here is the house is bigger than the tent. And it's that the min preposition, when used with an adjective, often communicates that idea of comparison. So the house is bigger than the tent. Here, this example below, Naomi is old from Sarah. Like, wait a minute, that doesn't make sense. Naomi is old from Sarah. It's a comparative use of the adjective. Naomi is older than Sarah, is what that is communicating. So this is something that can really trip up brand new Hebrew students. So just take a look at it, try to remember that function, and probably what's going to happen is you'll stumble across a use of min, and you'll be like, wait, this sentence doesn't make sense. What is this? Oh, the comparative use of min. And then try to see how you can articulate that phrase as a comparative. So that's it for this week, or for this chapter. If you have any questions, please post in the discussion board forum.